My name is Craig Stanley and I'm a National BDM with CHU, and I'd like to welcome you to our second webinar of the year, which is about condition reporting and proactive claims prevention, as an ounce of prevention is of course better than a pound of cure. Now, today's presentation is presented by Chris Fraser. Chris Fraser is the General Manager of CHU Services, the home of CHU Assess, Consult and Inspect. He has 20 years of insurance experience, and since joining in 2011, Chris has focused on the continual improvement of services vital to the delivery of CHU's promise to its valued strata clients. Now, CHU Services commenced in 2018 with 2 loss adjusters and now has grown to a team of 45, which services Queensland, New South Wales, ACT, Victoria, South Australia and WA. So welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Carl.
Now, we've also got Penny Allenson. Now, Penny Allenson is the CHU Consult Manager at CHU Services, and she has a combined 30 years building and insurance industry experience. Penny runs a team of building consultants who are experts in their field. The team provides technical reporting to loss adjusters, claims handlers, underwriting, compliance, and the broader strata market. So Penny and the team use their technical expertise and their experience to support the building and strata industry. So welcome, Penny.
Thank you, Craig.
Now, I'm in Brisbane, which was founded upon the homelands of the Turrbal and Jagera people, and Chris and Penny are in Sydney, which is home of the Gadigal people. So in the spirit of reconciliation, CHU acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which we live and work throughout Australia, and their continuing connection to land, sea and community. So we pay our respects to their elders past and present, and emerging, and extend the respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Now, in respect of our products, so you can see all our range of products there. They can all be found on StrataTech, so you're able to obtain quotes off StrataTech and access all of those products, as well as Flex Insurance. So Flex is, of course, a flexible residential product with a separate AFSL license to CHU. Now I'll pass you on to Chris Fraser to continue with the presentation and tell you more about CHU Services.
Thank you very much, Craig. This is a spot that I'm very much engaged in and have been working towards for a long time. And so I'm trusting that you'll get some good insight from myself and Penny today. And what we're looking at is like proactive claims prevention by the use of condition reporting, and really breaking that down, asking a couple of questions and answering some. I know that this presentation will inspire some questions in the underwriting space, which I'll let you know that there is another webinar which is planned, which dovetails into this and will answer many questions that you may have that come up from this session, directly hosted by our underwriters in Claire Burke and Steve, our underwriting manager. So, and we've got some insights into condition reporting, and there's a new diagnostic tool which CHU are using, which I'm not going to go too in depth into, but just show you a little bit about it, and we'll be happy to talk to you about that in the future after these sessions. And so we start with the why. Like, why should our strata be active in claims prevention? And I know that this forum predominantly is an audience of strata managers, and I believe that there'll be some brokers out there. And I know that we all understand that maintenance and defects need to be addressed proactively. And so when we talk about this, I'm not there waving a big finger at you with any presumptions. I'm hoping that there might be some insight into the why and what we see in our insurance position as to what happens when maintenance and defect issues basically aren't addressed. And so the reason I put a big wad of money on the screen is that I see that maintenance and defects is a cost that are always going to be incurred by the strata. It is a responsibility. It's a legislative responsibility for them to address. And so it really is a question as to how much money they want to spend. And I'll talk about that in slides to come, because ultimately we don't want one of these. Things don't get better when left to fester. I mean, that's a pretty inspiring, poor example of what stratas can be. And I must say that I probably have seen in the loss adjusting space amongst my team, some which aren't too far from that. I'm sure that they're not managed by anybody on this forum, though. You know, that wouldn't be the case. And so, simple slide. And so you've got maintenance and or defects that need to be done. And it is very much a question as to, like, with time, as it goes on, these situations don't become better. They will incrementally become worse. And there's a compounding effect, basically, of maintenance and defects which are left. And in essence, it is a ticking time bomb that can really cause a great deal of cost that will affect the future, like financial stability of that strata and all its owners. I mean, what we do know, and you've probably seen this in presentations by CHU over the past probably 2 years, is that we're very much in a climate change environment. And we don't need to get into if there's any arguments as to what's causing that. It's the case that we have a frequency of catastrophe events on the increase that's much greater than it had been in the past in recorded history. And we have increased temperatures that are causing those storm and weather events. And that basically is flowing into claims. We know that when there's catastrophes, not every single policy that we have in strata, in that particular area, will result in a claim. It is like these events are good telltales as to what is happening, is that they do turn into claims. But this presentation is about being proactive, and so potentially being the strata that doesn't have to lodge a claim in those events. Another reason to act now is what we're seeing in relation to both CPI and particularly housing construction costs. And this is not just Australia specific. I've seen statistics basically with very similar trends internationally, affected by many aspects, like the war in Ukraine, and demand for materials. We've given presentations in the past as to what particular same dollars will buy you in construction materials in Bunnings. I'd expect that most people have seen those, and a large stack of wood as opposed to a small stack of wood. And we know our dollars don't go as far. And so the thing that we want to inspire from this session is why respond to this proactively and now? Because we know that the claims that come in the relation to weather, they are in many cases preventable. And given the right diagnosis at that time, potentially will be, with the best advice, will be the most effective dollars that are spent, and preventively can stop inflated defects and maintenance costs through more extensive repairs that are required as they're left to fester over time. And then the resultant claims that can fold in as a result of that. And those claims, obviously, that's not assumed that they're accepted. They're obviously always reviewed under our policy and or your strata policy as to whether or not they're valid, but that obviously we do see them roll into claims. And those claims are for damage to the insured strata building, but they can also be for the consequential loss. And the consequential loss is for well, predominantly, it's not about repairs. It's about rental loss. It's about alternate accommodation and the like. And we know that the cost, particularly in the cities, to respond to these very large issues, particularly when there's roofs involved, can be quite staggering. And if the claim picks them up, obviously they fall into the claims history, and they will come into the consideration of premiums. And the suggestion, obviously, that inflated defects and maintenance costs, and for claims either accepted or paid, or declined, and the consequential loss either accepted or declined, comes through into there will be ballooning levies for this maintenance cost and or aspects which are rejected under those policies, which will fall to individuals. And we know that when repairs aren't completed or they're in dispute, that can turn into levy payment disputes, which in turn flows into the lawyers, and hence the snowball effect being the reason for that slide. Now, I'm not going to go incredibly in depth into this, but my background, as most people would know, is very much in the claim space. And so, like, when a claim comes through, like, how is that claim considered in relation to things that are of a maintenance or a defect in nature as the proximate cause? And so I'll just go into that just briefly. And so policy one, we know that there's 10 policies in amongst the CHU strata insurance plan, be it residential or commercial. And the insuring clause in policy one is what we insure. If selected and shown in the schedule, we will insure you up to the sum insured shown in policy one in the schedule against damage in a capital D. And you'll see that any capital in amongst these sentences will have a definition in the policy to your insured property, which occurs during the period of insurance. And so what is insured property? That means building or buildings as defined in the legislation that applies where your building is situated. And so that in the New South Wales environment refers to section 161, which I can just about say backwards underwater. And the reason that I include this slide is I still find many applicable opportunities to clarify the difference between what is common property or and the line and then lot owner's responsibility, and what is insured property. And so insured property basically exists for the insurance section of the New South Wales Strata Schemes Management Act or the particular legislation that applies to your state. And it prescribes what is to be that insured property, which includes fixtures, owners' improvements and owners' fixtures forming part of the building, and also says what are not part of the insured building, and such as fixtures removable by a tenant at the expiration of a tenancy. And you'll see that, so this definition is not in line with what is considered to be common property, really for the purpose of, for maintenance or things that are in essence excluded by the policy. And so damage, the definition in our policy, talks about partial or total accidental physical loss of or destruction of property from any sudden and accidental cause not otherwise excluded by this policy. And so these sudden and accidental causes are really what the policy is looking at. And then the exclusions that are in play, particularly in relation to maintenance side of things, is exclusion 1B, which I'm sure that everybody in the strata game have received a letter. It's probably the most common of exclusion that applies, and it's talking about like the slow train coming things, the oxidization, corrosion, wear and tear, fading concrete or brick cancer. If Andrew from Strata Professionals in Port Macquarie is online, he gave me the best brief description of this. He said that the way that he describes back to lot owners as to what insurance kind of looks at, it's like he asked the question, did it die of natural causes or did something kill it? And I love that. So thank you, Andrew, if you're online. We love that. And there also inherent defect or latent defect is in play there. And we've also got exclusion 3, which talks about damage caused by or non-rectification of insured property defect, error, or omission that you were aware of or should reasonably have been aware of, and the cost of rectifying the faulty defective materials or faulty defective workmanship, design and specification. I'll add in here that I've seen some instances where claims have been submitted through via brokers or direct from lot owners, and the strata have requested that those claims be withdrawn, as in that they don't want to see those claims on the claims history, and also given some advice to lot owners in those scenarios that relate to, well, this is your responsibility in relation to kitchen and the like. And that's like part of my reason for including those insurance, like the definition of insured building, is that, like in the case of a potential claim, we see it as like where a claim basically is withdrawn before being going through the process of being considered and then either accepted or partially accepted or excluded, that those definitions of what insured property do apply. And so in line with the General Insurance Code of Practice, I never discourage a claim from being submitted for a review and a response. But what does delay to maintain cost strata? As we've said, inflated repair costs as time goes on in relation to CPI, the increased cost of materials and labour, as we're seeing very much in the claims space, that result in claims of both damage and consequential loss, and then potential excluded claims, and then potential liable matters for uninsured loss triggered by a breach or failure to maintain, which is very much within the legislative requirements of strata and strata management. And then there is the two last points. I'll say that premium loading to account for increased claims cost and loss ratio, within brackets, to be continued in the next webinar. And so questions in relation to both this as well as reduced insurance competition at renewal due to higher risk profile will have ramifications in the future for strata in relation to the cost of a premium if it's offered, as well as the terms under which it's offered. And so a healthy approach and to potentially pay the least is to address maintenance and defect aspects now. There are some quick wins, and I know I've been rabbiting on in the way that I do, as most people who've met me would know. But Penny's not just here to look better than I do, and so we'll start talking about some of the things that Penny and her team see out in the world of both like the consult team, which are a team of very experienced building consultants. They act in our claims space to aid us with proximate cause and scope of works and many aspects, even to project management. They also do condition reporting, both internally for our business in the underwriting space and externally. And so we, as a team, see the results of very inexpensive things to maintain, turning into potentially multi-million-dollar claims. This one, and Penny, if you'd like to say hello, because I don't know if anybody.
I haven't really been on mute.
Sorry,
I'm just sitting quietly. So hello, everybody. So strange just talking to a screen and not a
I know.
voice.
For some I'm strangely quite at peace with it. I don't know.
Yeah, it can be a little unnerving too, though. So yes, I do sit in the technical space, and I will have something to say now. So let me know, though, Chris, when you want me to jump in.
Not a worry.
Probably next slide.
Absolutely. But these, this one, and it's probably these you can pay $2 for it, and probably this is probably what we're seeing on this screen, installed, untagged, probably potentially installed at the original construction. No one thinks about it until the day it bursts. The way they work, you can see the kind of shiny braided material around it, is they've kind of got a rubber interior, and the braiding actually holds the integrity of the whole thing in play. And so what I'm told by plumbing experts is that they corrode from the exterior, and that when those braids start to let go, and you'll see them start to darken in spots, and then they'll rust, and the braids will let go, and then they'll just, because they don't have that to hold them together, they'll go out. But what is out there in the industry are, there are new products that are available, and as in not the $2 shop variety, but very good materials in this space that give you a warranty and a liability aspect that if they're installed properly within a particular, I'm not sure if it's a 5 or a 10-year period, when they're tagged, that they potentially pay the claim for the resultant damage.
It is a quick win, this one, because it does do a major amount of damage and can do a major amount of damage to multiple units. And it's your flooring and your joinery, and it kind of just, it is if you're away on holidays and a hose goes, it's frightful.
I know everybody would love a new kitchen and a bathroom and all those kind of things, and like a floating floor. I swear it feels like you could tip a cup of coffee on them and be up for between 8 and 20 grand these days, because they're just not resilient. Ultimately, they are a big neoprene rubber sheet, basically there to keep water when they do. But these are very preventable. Another thing is to obviously clear out gutters and drainage so that they're flowing and doing what they do, so they don't backflow and send water in directions that you don't want them to be. Very effective way. And obviously a storm will give you the volume, and water will find a way if you give it the opportunity. So very inexpensive way to
I only had a gutter issue, Chris, at my house in the last big storm that we had, and it was only that I had someone there that could jump straight up on the roof, but it was amazing the amount of water that was coming in just through, there was a blockage in that gutter, and it even surprised me, even though I see it all day, every day, to be sitting there and watching it before my eyes was quite amazing. And it was just, we just needed to clean those gutters. So it is very preventable. But amazing the amount of water it can divert into a building.
That's right. And as well as waste, like waste pipes. I mean, nobody wants to be have an uninvited guest of theirs and or everyone else's refuse spilling out through their apartment. We in the loss adjusting space have seen our share and will see many more. And like the preventative routine, basically, of clearing out drains to keep them working, will actively prevent very, very expensive, as well as emotive, disturbing, contaminant. These are the words and the situations that they cause. Very good money spent. Another example, like Strata loves a balcony, and like a lot of our lives are expressed basically on balconies, but making sure that they drain well, and that can be in relation to both clearing out of opportunity for blockages, but also design aspects to allow them.
Placement of furniture and pot plants on a balcony can affect the drainage. The way you use a hose on a balcony to be watering those pot plants. There's so many little things in this instance that can affect the actual drainage and stormwater. That's an extreme example, but even
like they're having a garage sale at level 3.
I've been to places where it is just, certain pot plants that someone's even accidentally placed over drainage, not realising, and just the damage it can cause. So
let's get into the nuts and bolts now of condition reporting. These are many of the shopping list of things that Penny and team are looking for. And so if you want to pick out some in particular, Penny, and the kind of, like we've touched on some, but the kind of claims that they can trigger, and obviously that turns into risk and recommendations both to underwriting and to strata. So the floor is yours, Penny.
Thank you. So condition reporting is just understanding a building, and I will say I do have some consultants that are like building whisperers. They can walk up to a building and it does, what they're looking at does speak to them as far as how that building is performing. The biggest thing in strata is water. We're dealing with it all day, every day. And water can be an existing design issue that, strata have tried to deal with over years. But the biggest ones I see in that space, or we see as a team and adjusters as well, is, doors, windows, and waterproofing of buildings. So that's the points I will talk about, Chris, if that's okay. Because, we turn up to jobs and a lot of the time it'll either be we've had a directional storm and the doors and windows have failed, whether it be through incorrect flashing during construction, or, things are rotting and wearing out over time. There's also the waterproofing on balconies, which can be a major issue in that instance as well. So they're things that fall in both the defects and the maintenance bucket. Always say the first thing is identification. So when we're reporting, it's findings or identification of an issue, then working to a cause around that, whether it is that defects or maintenance space, and then going from there. But water is massive, and getting that correct identification is huge to know which direction to head in, because you are working within existing building parameters as well when you go to fix these things. So water you won't always see coming in every storm. It often is directional. It could be a blockage with a roof, like we said before, which is maintenance, or it could be a failing material. So that is the biggest.
Like in relation to defects, I know that like drainage on, like, for water not to come in ultimately is the ultimate goal. But the situation or the placement of a strata will change many aspects of their design requirements in order to prevent the kind of things that they are at risk in that location. Did you want to talk a little about this slide?
Yeah, so the exposure. I've recently been to some cyclone claims where we have had roofs come off. I go, it's going to be typical in a large event if it's an older building. But I guess with this one, what I'd be pointing out is, yes, Chris, with the design, and then when you're doing your maintenance and your upgrades to your buildings, actually, doing maintenance or works to correct issues, including upgrades. So simple roof replacement, you might go, roof's at the end of its serviceable life. We're going to just go in and replace what's existing. It's a really good opportunity to go, okay, the roof's beyond its serviceable life. We're going to replace that. What upgrade do we need for that to perform correctly? Where have we had water coming into the building that we might be able to come up with a performance solution around the drainage and the stormwater? So it's really good opportunity to understand the building for when you're doing works to that, to understand how you can make the building perform better. And we are working within existing parameters with these buildings too. So I, all day, every day, am talking about performance of the building, performance solutions, and working to come up with those solutions with trades and specialists, rather than just going, we have a code that we have to apply, and this is what we've got to do, but the building may not allow that upgrade in the way it is written because of the original design.
So Penny, tell me about this image that you've got, you've included here. And as you confirmed for me prior to today's session, the condition report wasn't to go and check that there was a roof, in which case this one doesn't have one.
So no, this was a cyclone claim, like I said, where it's surprising as far as there's 3 stratas in this. They do look like single detached dwellings. The front building is the one I've shown the photo of. Just its exposure to the event when it happened, it completely lost its roof and was, a lot of damage right throughout the building. The 2 adjoining buildings, surprisingly, there was a gutter off on one, and I think no damage to the other building. So location is key. It's another thing when a consultant walks up to a building, they are taking in the surroundings as far as, is it exposed to a beach or an area that's going to be high wind? Is there causeways or, stormwater within the area? Does it look low-lying? There's a whole lot of considerations, bushfire, landslide, all of those things. Snow loading, Chris, I'd like a few more snow loading jobs. So I think
we should all go and see if we can find some snow loading.
Yeah, so it is the team, I think, assessing risk when they get to the buildings as well. So not only letting the buildings talk to them, but assessing the risks around the building is what the natural details are, and how we look at that.
We've got one here about design. Do you want to talk us through that, Penny?
Yeah, so this is the most confusing. This is where I did touch before on structure and compliance and upgrades and all of those things. And it's probably kind of scary conversations in our space when we start throwing out the words defective design. And
we're all very calm here, Penny.
I see people cringe though when I say it, but I can't look at the audience, so I don't know the reaction. But yeah, structural integrity, issues with non-compliant and codes and standards. The way we look at it, buildings can be compliant at the time of build, but they may require upgrades during repairs, whether they be maintenance repairs or defects, or claim repairs, even resultant damage. Then there can be upgrades, that are required within those. There's, ineffective design and detailing for the building components, which comes from original design. I'm just reading through my notes here to go, what else do I need to talk about? Materiality and hazardous substances are something we need to consider when we're doing upgrades. You know, our asbestos, our ACP, all those items. And then there's constraints within that as well as to how do we reclad the building because it was designed for a particular material. So these are all things that fall into that performance solution bucket. You know, it's not, we can't do it, but how do we do it? You know, we see buildings all the time too, where I was going to do one more there, Chris, and you've jumped ahead of me.
Sorry.
Because a big one we do see is like services. So retrofitted things after the building's been built and certified. You know, we will turn up and see a whole lot of retrofitted stuff as far as mechanical, when I say mechanical, air conditioning or ventilation systems that are put on the structure and, you know, a lot of time on the roof that hasn't been designed for originally. So, you know, we're loading buildings more than what they've been designed for, which will affect the way the building performs and the drainage and everything on that building as well. So that's a massive consideration as to, you know, we need to now install a whole lot of ACs to a building after it's been completed and tenants are coming in. How do we best do that to not affect the original design and performance of that building?
May I go to the next slide now?
Yes, you can now.
All right, very good. So I threw some questions that I had. So what items are the priority? Like I've got problems, I've got maintenance or defects basically to correct. What's the number one item, Penny?
So I always go, the number one item is being watertight, because the damage that water can do to the building overall, the long-term degradation, is massive. So what's water? Oh, look at that. Was that like a test or what? Do you want to give me the next one?
You picked the top answer, Penny. Well
yeah.
Almost like this is rigged.
Cha-ching. I hope I get a prize for that later. So yeah, it's actually going, okay, the building's not quite performing. We are getting water in. We need to prevent this so the building, you know, stands for the life it's expected to and doesn't
water in
have
building bad.
Yeah, it you know, degrade before it's a serviceable time, basically.
So number two, Penny.
What is the next one? I can't remember. I should have had another coffee this morning.
Dun, 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 dun.
Structure, yes. So checking structure, massive. And that goes back to the loading. You know, structure can be something from the original design and it's failing. And, you know, that needs to be identified and corrected as soon as possible. But structure can also be the overloading of a building as well. So we need to be really conscious on how we treat our building in that space.
Now we'll see if, like, because there's more items in this next one to see if you can pick the order that you gave me. As to how do I manage this? Number one is
cheating over here with notes. So give it to me.
No.
How do I manage identification? So that is the first step. And identification can be the unit owner going, I've got water coming into my building. It can be, you know, condition reporting, us going to site and identifying things. It can be, you know, many people in that identification phase. It's just actually realizing there's something there.
But Penny, what's number two?
See, you had all your notes, Chris, straight in front of you. I'm ready to like go for the slide.
Specialist engagement.
Yeah, I do know that. So yeah, specialist engagement. Now, we see all the time people maybe get one or two specialists in. Those specialists don't talk to each other. It can be confusing how to decipher what needs to be done off initial reporting. So when it comes to the specialist engagement, I always say the more the merrier. Go for an expert at the start, someone who can coordinate all the specialists. And when I talk specialists, I'm not just talking an engineer. I go, yes, an engineer is a specialist, but you have engineers, you have building consultants, you have principal contractors, you have trades. So we might have a job in the project management space, and our specialist will be, like, for one job, we'll have a design specialist, so they'll be doing design. We'll have a certifier who's another specialist who'll be doing the certification. We have a structural engineer and a hydraulic engineer, so there can be more than one engineer in the space. We might bring in a specialist roofer to chat around performance solutions, and we will get a team together of specialists to come up with the best scope, the best method, the best program to get the works done. So yeah, I always go, when we talk specialists, don't limit to just engaging one person and thinking that's going to be the solution. And talk to people who are going to decipher it for you as well, because a lot of reporting can be really technical. And if you don't sit in that space, it's hard to know where to start.
All right. Now, Penny, you are incredibly and knowledgeable.
I can tell you, scope of works method program. Is that what it says?
There we go. There we go. Now, and then the last thing, basically, what specialist do I engage?
Yeah,
it should be recommended in your reporting. Now, the reason that I'm jumping, and I know that we've been incredibly engaging.
Have I talked too long?
Because I want to show you our new toys, and like Craig actually said this in a different way before. The classic scene from Austin Powers. Prevention is better than cure. So yeah, if we can head off our maintenance and defects the soonest, then there will be less of a drama for us in the future. And the old adage, when should you plant a tree? Well, 20 years ago or today, as in, or in maintenance speak, it'll cost you less to plant a seed or a sapling than it is basically for the thing that it gets too much big to manage and ends up tying us into an insurance land. So this is why I wanted to jump through these things, because I wanted to show you
cut me off.
a new toys. Not new toys, they're tools. They're amazing new tools that I really wanted to show you. And so we've been using these for the last 12 months, and we've now launched a business providing these services across a bunch of different means. And you'll find these CHU.com.au, and yeah, you celebrate, exactly. CHU.com.au, and there's a CHU services tab, and you'll find in there CHU Assess, CHU Consult, and also CHU Inspect. And so CHU Inspect basically is our new business, and I'm just going to show you a little bit about it, just to whet your appetite. And then if you want to talk to us in the future about this, we'll be very excited and very engaged to give you a presentation. So what is it we're doing? So drones now, what we're doing is scanning a roof. We're actually kind of using it's like a mower program, so that we can grab close-up 4K images that actually make a plan drawing like this, even incredibly complex roofs that give us everything from like all the gutters, the ridges, and the pitch of the roof, all this detail basically in a plan drawing, and we can zoom in on those. But what it also does is, and that's the plan drawings that it can bring out, is it has artificial intelligence to identify aspects of damage. And what you do is go through and qualify or disqualify or accept or delete those. And basically we get a detail. Like if we had this back on the 20th of January 2020 for the hailstorm in Canberra, yeah, it would have taken a lot of time basically off the quantification, particularly of the roof aspect of that loss. What we've also got is the internal equivalent, and you might have seen another tool out there in the market, particularly in the real estate game, called Matterport. We've got one that's similar. It's actually more cost effective. It's available as a presentation indefinitely, as in it doesn't switch off after a couple of months. And what it does is give you a 3D walkthrough of the areas that you capture and turn it again into a plan drawing to give you 4K images so that you can virtually attend either a claim, or you could capture a building in its common areas, or even into lots if that was desired, and to aid with claims management for large loss, but also facilities management in the strata space. And it's presented in a beautiful way that it stacks the level 1, level 2, level 3, etc., and aids you to do a really nice walkthrough. And it's the best dilapidation report that I've ever seen. And so, like, these are shiny new amazing tools. You can probably tell that I'm a bit excited about it. We think it's a game changer in many spaces out there in both claims and in strata facilities management. So it'd be lovely to talk to you. We always say that tools are best in the hands of qualified specialists. And so it's really good. It's an eyes, it's the eyes tool. And then we recommend, basically coupled with a qualified brain, basically make it a really powerful package. That is the conclusion of our today's webinar. I very much thank everybody who's attended, and thank you, Penny, for joining me today to give this presentation. I hope that you've been able to take something out of it, that you'll be able to go back and inspire your lot owners and committee members to make proactive decisions to head off the future snowballing or ballooning costs. So really appreciate your attendance today and look forward to the next time we get to see you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.